Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Science fiction, the great teacher, the great inspiration. It helps us see the endless possibilities of life. So let's be inspired together.
Come with me if you want to live.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over that horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We are not sending out interceptors. We have taken them completely by surprise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Trekker Critique. Today, I wanted to talk about the movie Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which is still playing in the theaters. But it's been in there for about a week now, I guess, so I figured now would be a good time to do a review on it. So please note there are spoilers here in this video. Okay, so if you're one that don't want to know what's happened, then just skip this and do something else. But I wanted to do this here while it was still kind of fresh in my mind, and so I gotta say off the bat, great movie, fun, exciting. You know, the story, I think, was much better than the previous film before this one, which this movie spins off of, okay? Because who we're following in this film is not Mad Max, but Furiosa, who was introduced to us in the last film. And I guess a lot of people really liked, you know, Charlize Theron's performance as Furiosa, so they really wanted to see more of this character, which that's what this film is about. It's sort of like a origin story for this character, and they didn't use Charlize Theron for this movie because the fact that we're starting all the way back from when she's just a little girl, and we kind of follow her up to well, it takes place, you know, towards the end, you know, a few years before we see her in the last film. So it's, you know, it's the first is the last and the last is first. Okay, so they really didn't need to have the same actress come back for this because it wouldn't have looked right to have her or try to de-age her in any way, so they didn't do it. But they did bring in Chris Hemsworth, who plays one of the villains. I mean, there's more than one villain in this story here, obviously, because there's very few good guys left in this apocalyptic Australian country here, and so, you know, it's survival of the fittest, as always. I mean, that's what this whole Mad Max universe kind of thing is, you know, after the apocalypse and people trying to survive in what's left of Australia, okay, which is mostly desert, you know, so it's a struggle. Anyway, this movie, this new one, starts where we go back to I guess when she was like, what, 10 or something, Furiosa. Yeah, it's like it's set 20 years before Fury Road, which was the previous Mad Max film. Okay, so 20 years before, so she's quite a bit young. And there's this little spot in Australia that still has some vegetation. Okay, and there's this clan of people who live in that kind of maintain it the best they can because it's key to survival. They collect the seeds from it, they save them, you know, and they live there. There's water, and, you know, it's very important. And it seems like it kind of sits you know, somewhere like in a crevice in a way where, you know, it could be easily overlooked if you're not looking for it, you know. But I guess, you know, sometimes it is found and they end up having to kill anybody who finds it who's not part of the community, because they don't want it to get out that there's this nice lush green area. And because they know if it gets out, everybody in the whole, whoever's left alive is going to swamp that place and destroy it, you know. So they're trying to protect it. There's warlords who are fighting over what's left of the resources. Water, food, weapons, gas. It's always back to that. And we find Furiosa with these people, and she's a little girl, and while she's out there, you know, kind of playing with other kids and stuff, she finds this small group here of bikers, you know, a motorcycle gang basically, and she gets seen, and then it ends up they go after her, and her mother sees that she's kidnapped, and she takes off after them. And in the chase, we find out these people belong to a gang, a much larger gang, who is run by a guy named Dementus, who was played by Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth, he's kind of, his character, Dementus, is kind of broken and crazy, on the crazy side. Very, you know, well, they call him Dementus, and it's demented, you know what I'm saying? So he is that, okay? He is that. So he's a very unusual character, but he runs these people, and he runs it with an iron fist, like they always do. And so they eventually kill her mother, Furiosa's mother, in a horrific fashion, okay? And she ends up spending the next 10 years, the little girl spends the next 10 years as a slave to Dementus, and later to Immortan Joe, who was the villain in the previous film. So we get to see the earlier years of Immortan Joe, and we actually end up going back to that settlement that he was running with the big water pipes and all that shit. So we get to see that again. You know, what ends up happening is, you know, Dementus, you know, goes to where Immortan Joe is, and he tries to throw his fat around there, basically, to say he's going to take over his colony or whatever, and, you know, whatever. And it comes to a little, you know, a little fight where Chris Dementus is just basically run right out of town, out of that fucking area, okay? And so he comes up with another plan to sort of gain a foothold with Immortan Joe by going after Gastown, which is, if you remember in the previous film, there was a town where they would exchange water for gas, and there was another one that was Bullet Town, and they exchanged water for bullets. Okay, so there was like these three towns, you know, miles apart. So Dementus decides he's going to go and take over Gastown, which he does, and then he comes back to Immortan Joe and says, okay, look, you know, now I got you where I want you, you know, and we're going to have to work out something here. And, you know, basically, Immortan Joe wants Furiosa, the little girl, he wants her, and he takes her, basically, but, you know, Furiosa wants to get revenge at Dementus for having killed her mother and stuff like that, so she figures this is probably a stepping stone to get what she wants. You know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of thing. And so she goes with Immortan Joe, and she kind of learns how to do things for the people, and only, you know, basically driving vehicles and doing missions where they have to go get stuff, and they're fighting cars and shit like that. You know, all of the big, what makes Mad Max Mad Max. You know, all that shit. And she, you know, works her way up the ladder, I guess, becoming invaluable to a Moten Joe. And so when she gets to a point where she's, you know, at the most opportune time, because, you know, Dementus starts to get crazy and starts, you know, upsetting the balance, the order of things. Okay, then it starts up a big fight, and Furiosa is going to use that as a opportunity to finally get that, you know, that guy Dementus where she wants him. Okay, and basically she ends up capturing Dementus easily enough, you know, because at this point she's learned all kinds of ways to totally screw up your life. You know, learned from the best of monsters that still exist, and she finally puts him, you know, she can't think of a more satisfying way to get revenge on this guy. So what she does with him, and I really don't want to, you know, it's such a odd way that she gets her revenge on this guy, but she doesn't kill him outright. Okay, she makes him suffer. She makes him suffer for a long time. She makes him suffer. And, you know, at the end, there's like sort of a narrator that kind of suggests that, you know, they're not sure what she did to this guy. But they leave you with an impression that she did something to him that, where she, I don't want to get, because it's really a bizarre thing, and it's, you know, it's a shocking. I've never seen this done in a movie before, but it was really something. And she's been holding on to a seed through this whole time in her life. Okay, she had a seed in her hand when she was kidnapped, and she kept that seed and kept it alive. Okay, but as a seed. And she finally uses that seed for something to do with revenge. And she, at least that's what, you know, we're left to believe. Okay, you know, and Chris becomes the soil, Dementus becomes the soil in which this seed begins its life. And he ain't dead. He ain't dead. Okay, so I'm just gonna let you think, you know, you'll have to, I'm gonna leave that. Okay, and like I said, it goes, you know, it goes right up pretty much almost to the point where the last movie begins. Okay, so you know, of course, that's when we see Charlize Theron in it and everything. But this story was really creative in a way that, you know, it wasn't such a big scope of a thing where everything, you know, there's all kinds of stuff going on. They focused on one character, or two characters rather, okay, Furiosa and Dementus, okay? They focus on these two characters in this story as they go through the years, all right? And it's really a good story because there's so much dimension to Furiosa in this, which this actress that they find, well, it was more than one actress. I mean, they had a young girl, but the actresses, they really played the role well. Okay, they did almost as good a job, I think, as Charlize did. Okay, I think they did really well. So, I'm trying to think. You know, what's her name here? Anya Taylor-Joy, Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, and then Aaliyah Brown as the child version of Furiosa. Okay, so these two actresses really did well in this movie. Okay, so you're not going to be disappointed because Charlize is not back in this, that, you know, the movie's going to suck. It doesn't suck. Okay, these two really pull us off great. So they did a very good job casting this film. And again, Chris Hemsworth, always good in whatever he's acting in. He does another good, outstanding performance here as the Dementus. Let's see, they didn't bring back the original actor who played Immortan Joe in the previous film, obviously. Instead, they got Laichi Hulme to play him, and he does good. You know, because you know that if you remember the last film, he wore a lot of makeup over his face, so you really don't see the difference. I mean, it almost looks like the same actor playing him, but it isn't. It's a different guy. And they have a lot of other interesting characters that, you know, get into this thing. But it's really a very good story. And I'm glad that they made it, because such a good, rich character that was introduced to us in that previous film and well performed by Theron, you just couldn't drop that character, you know, and go on. You know, too many people really wanted to know more about her, and this was a perfect origin story befitting her. And to be honest, I was surprised that film was finished as quickly as it was. You know, I didn't think it was going to be in the theaters for another couple, 2-3 months. You know, but here it's already there, and they didn't use as much CGI as they did in the last film, because I think a lot of fans didn't like that they kind of, you know, added things into it that aren't realistic. Okay, so I think they backed off a little bit for the sake of, you know, visual appeal. So they kind of bring it back a little more back, you know, the way, you know, there's still a little bit in there. It's not completely gone, but there's still a little bit, but it's not, you know, as much. So the bikers and the cars, the chases, the wrecks and all that are as pretty close to being, you know, untouched as you can get with that. Of course, they don't want to kill anybody while they're doing these kind of movies, which it's happened before. But you know, so if CGI will increase the safety level, then they'll use it. But they didn't do it as much, and I'm glad they didn't, because it makes it look all the more real in my mind. Because you can always tell CGI when you see it, you know. But this is a really good film, and it's good because, you know, people were saying, you know, can they do anything more with Mad Max? I mean, is this a franchise that's pretty much used up? Well, I didn't think that in the last film, and I'm sure a lot of others didn't either, because they loved it. But I don't know if there was any interest in seeing the character of Max again, because, you know, Mel Gibson didn't play in the last one. They got another actor to play Max in the last one, and he did a fine job. Okay. But the focus more was on the second actor, you know, Theron. There was a lot more about her than the new guy playing Max. So I think maybe this character, Furiosa, kind of breathes new life into that whole universe of Mad Max. They certainly don't need to stay focused on just Max all the time, even though in this movie, this new one, you get to see a shot of Max with his car watching the chaos happening down below, eating out of a can, but you don't really see him. I mean, he's sort of like a high, long shot of his car that he uses all the time in the movies, and him leaning on the car, eating, watching all hell breaking loose down. And that's the only tie-in to Mad Max you're going to see in that, is just that 15-second shot of somebody dressed as Max on the hood of the car, you know, that V8 engine, whatever the hell he had, watching the mess and erupting down below. Okay, that's all you're going to see of Mad Max in this film. So if you blink your eyes, you know, or you get up to use the bathroom, you're probably going to miss it. I mean, they show him sort of, you know, in the middle of the film where Furiosa is sort of trying to walk all the way back across the desert back to the Citadel, and he sees her, and apparently we're supposed to assume that he rescued her from the desert and brought her there himself and just left. Okay. So in other words, he's been there before, and he probably doesn't really know who she is at that time, and, you know, remember her, but, you know, he rescues her. I guess we're supposed to surmise, even though we don't actually see him do it, but we figure that he's the one that got her back to the Citadel where she didn't die of thirst and all that. So he is in it a little bit, okay. But I think, you know, like I said, I think that this franchise could go on even longer, you know, even if, you know, if, what's his name? George Miller, who produced this, the thing, even if he, because he's getting up in age, and if he doesn't want to do any more, or he should, God forbid, pass away, he's left us with a good character that we can continue this thing with. If you get some good writers and stuff that could really do something with it. So I'm hoping that maybe this this new character here, Furiosa, can continue this whole thing, this drama on further. And I mean, we've already got it. They already opened the door to other actors playing Max if they choose to go back with following him. But now we got two characters and not just one that we can follow in this thing. And I'm hoping that they, decide that, not to just stop this thing. I think they can do another film. What did they spent $168 million making this film. And I guess up to now it's taken $74.4 million. It's got a lot of good reviews, and I think that this movie really will guarantee maybe another sequel down the road, as long as the stories are not just photocopy or not just remakes of original ideas. Okay, what keeps this thing going is originality and new stuff. Okay, I mean, if you follow this whole thing up to this movie here, you're going to see that each film could almost stand on its own in a way. Okay, there really is no tie-in to a previous Mad Max film except for this film right here. But all the others, I mean, each movie could almost be its own thing. It doesn't necessarily have to, be a sequel to anything. And I think that's the way they should keep going with it, is I think they need to simply, find new ways of looking at this, to keep it relevant, Let's go to commercial break, and we'll follow more with this when we get back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back. All right. So yeah, there's definitely a door there to continue more. And I had read in a small article here about a possibility of a sequel being greenlit called Mad Max: The Wasteland, which is supposed to be a prequel story of Max. Which, you know, they've been talking about doing this kind of this story here for a while, even before the last two films. They wanted to do something, I think, to kind of fill in the gap sort of between the first movie and the Road Warrior. Okay, but they're kind of waiting to see how well this film does before they move on it, because I think what they're waiting for is to see how much money they can get. Which they'll use to budget for that, but they were supposed to put something of that in Fury Road, the previous Mad Max film, a little bit of preparation for it. I mean, because if you saw how Fury Road ended, it looked like perhaps they might do a story about Max in the next film, which instead they did Furiosa. But they wanted to do something with Max in another prequel kind of story. I mean, this is from the Hollywood Reporter, but it's not in development. But Miller, he clarified that the Wasteland source material, lore, and other background material written in preparation for Fury Road had not been adapted into a screenplay yet. So, you know, it's in the ideas, you know, I guess in his mind of doing it, and maybe in his mind he kind of knows how it's going to be mapped out. I mean, sometimes this happens. People don't actually put things on paper, but he knows in his mind, you know, kind of where he wants to go with a prequel of that. I don't know. Like I said, it's all going to depend on how well this. I mean, he was kind of a little bit disappointed that the first weekend of Furiosa didn't do as well as he hoped. Okay, but I think, you know, it was other movies that came out around the same time that kind of took the thunder away a little bit. But it's got good reviews. I mean, everyone who's seen it loves it. Okay, so the movie isn't bad. It's just that other people wanted to see other films, I guess, you know. And you know how people are, you know, when it comes. I mean, for me, $23, you know, to go see the movie. I mean, that's, you know, and that's just because I'm using military discount because I'm a veteran. You know, it's going to be more. So, you know, people are trying to spend wisely, you know, about seeing things. And you know, and Mad Max is sort of a cult following anyway. I mean, it's a movie that doesn't, you know, have like this great big following, like, you know, like say Star Wars or something like that, you know. But it's a good franchise, and you know, you got to tread lightly, I guess, if you're Miller here, and you got to wait to see how that movie does. I'm hoping that it gives him enough incentive to want to do another film, and it'd be unfortunate if, you know, it might. He might do it anyway. It might take him longer to get to that point to do another film. Okay, he's not a guy that rushes to get things like that done. I mean, he's you know, he's cautious, and he likes the story to have something in it, you know, some meat in it to justify having a film, which is good. You know, he's not trying to do this just to do this, you know, for the sake of, you know, profit or whatever. I mean, yeah, there's money involved in it and stuff, but he ain't going to waste the money if the project he doesn't feel is justified. So if he gets enough money from Furiosa, you know, he might do one eventually. It might take maybe a little bit longer to get to it than he wants, but if this idea has been rattling around in his head for as many years as it has, I can't see how he's just going to sit on it and not do anything with it. He's going to want to do something with it, at the very least. So I'm hoping that, you know, he gets what he needs from this film to be able to come back and do another film. But I'm hoping, like I said, eventually they'll do maybe another story with Furiosa or something later on. I mean, because we left her in the previous film as running the Citadel. So who knows where we can take her from there, you know, and that would be interesting to see. And, you know, Max could play a part in that, you know, bringing those two back together again, those two characters. Essentially kind of bringing hope back to the hopeless situation, which is the apocalypse, you know, because with Furiosa and the seeds that she got from the last film, they can, and the water that the Citadel had, they could start planting and maybe making, you know, vegetables and stuff in that area, you know, and bringing some life back. So that would be an interesting development. But like I said, this is a good film. If you're into, you know, Mad Max, the franchise and all that, you'll enjoy this film, I believe. And if you... I believe it should still be playing in the theaters. I mean, it's not a movie that's not getting seen. It's just people are looking at all these other films that are out there, like Planet of the Apes and all that, you know, and the Godzilla, and so, you know, everybody, you know, the kids they want to go see that. Mad Max is sort of not of a kid show. It's it's a kind of an adult. It's rated R, but you know, it's not like sort of a movie, you know, for a family or something to go to see. I mean, unless you're, you know, older, but if you're into it, then, you know, you're going to love this film too. And I'm hoping that you'll see it and like it. And I'm hoping that George Miller can get some money out of this so he can continue his franchise. You know, it's amazing that after all these years, this guy's still at it, you know. I mean, he had a long period where he wasn't making anything, and I think he was just waiting for the right story to come along, and he did Fury Road, the last film, and it sort of re-energized the interest back into the Mad Max thing. Some people call it a reboot of Mad Max. Well, I guess you could say that, but like I said, none of these films really seem to be connected to each other. So I think that, you know, like I said, he's a guy that waits for the right story, and the story that he's got has been rattling around in his head for quite a while. So, yeah, go and see it, and I hope you enjoy it. And that's it for today, so I hope everybody will have a great rest of the week. Take care. I'll talk to you again about something else. Bye-bye.